dim lit room where secrets lie. A tale of darkness neath the starry sky. And gunroom echoes with walls painted black. Whiskey will whisper secrets, no turning back. Gun rooms and bourbon, danger.
Hey, welcome everybody to Drunk Dudes in a Gun Room. Hey, today I've got Dave and Stacy with 22 Mohawks. How you guys doing?
Good. How are you, Donald? Thanks for having us.
Good, thank
Great,
you.
man. Thanks for coming on. So, tell everybody just a little brief background about your guys yourself and the organization.
Yep. So I grew up in Norwood, Massachusetts, about 30 minutes south of Boston. I joined the Army in 2001, spent 16 years in. I served in units 10th Mountain Division, 82nd Airborne, did some time in SWIC, and deployed overseas to Iraq. And I got out in 2016, and now I work in finance and run 22 Mohawks with Stacy.
Okay, awesome. So, what made you guys decide to go in the military?
It's just something that I always wanted to do. I always wanted to be in the Army infantry, and yeah, it's something I've always wanted to do. I always wanted to be a ground pounder infantry guy and do cool guy stuff.
Okay, yeah. So, Stacy, you said that your dad was in the Coast Guard, right?
Yeah, so I never served, but my father was in the Coast Guard and he died by suicide in 2009. Dave and I both grew up in Norwood and we went to junior high together and our last names both start with C, so we were always in homeroom together and we've always been friends throughout the years. And when I saw Dave posting about bringing awareness to veteran suicide in 22 Mohawks, he started the idea with doing a Mohawk and then getting other people to do Mohawks and send pictures in, and he was going to make donations to a larger organization. So I decided to get a Mohawk. So I think I was like the first girl to get a Mohawk in support of it.
That's
and it's
awesome.
just been destiny ever since.
Totally. Yeah.
So you're actually the first person on the show that has been related to the Coast Guard. So congratulate you on that. So what was it like being growing up with your dad in the Coast Guard?
It was interesting, but he always had a love for boats and stuff, so that's what I really remember the most. And it's funny, so he always like knot tying and stuff was like one of the biggest things. I don't remember most of my childhood, but one of the things I always remembered was like he always had this obsession with like knot tying and different things like that in boats. So everything he had, like boat stuff, water stuff. And it was funny because Dave, one year, I think it was for Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
He got me this awesome like display with all the knot tying of it. It was something that I would always talk about that my dad always used to have that I absolutely love. So that's probably like the most profound memory that I have. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not real familiar with the Coast Guard. Do they PCS and move around like the regular military does, or are they pretty much home stationed? Because I know they do deploy, and I know they do go to like overseas, like Puerto Rico and stuff like that. But I don't know how orders and stuff like that come down. So,
yeah, it's similar to the DoD. But there's a huge presence here in Cape Cod with the Coast Guard. I forget what the name of the base. I think they're actually on Otis Airfield, and then there's the I don't know if they're on the Charlestown Navy Yard, but there's a big Coast Guard presence here in the Bay in Boston. But yeah, they do ETS and PTS just like the Department of Defense and Army and Marines and stuff.
Okay, awesome. So you say you were in 10th Mountain, huh?
10th Mountain. Yep,
yeah. So yeah. I had Jared Taylor. Are you familiar with Jared?
God, yeah, that name rings a bell. Yep.
He was in 10th Mountain. He wrote a book about his time in Iraq and Africa and everything while he was in 10th Mountain. So
yeah, I was in 214, 2nd Brigade. And that was the same. So 214 was the same, just a history check here. It was the same unit that deployed to Mogadishu with Ranger Regiment and Delta Force for Black Hawk Down. So they were the unit that came in and actually cordoned off the area to go in and get the Delta guys and the Rangers.
Okay. Yeah, I was in the 160th for 10 years. So
no way.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All
That's
right.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about as far as the organization. So what is the goal and what do you guys offer and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah. So everyone knows the number 22, right? So 22 high average of vets that die by suicide every day. The Mohawk just kind of represents the stigma and the vet, right? I was trying to think of a way to kind of create excitement around it to kind of get attention to veteran suicide awareness, right? Have you heard of the Ice Bucket Challenge?
I have.
With for ALS, people would dump ice on them to bring awareness to ALS. I was trying to dive into that and create something like that where people would, hey, get Mohawks. And so I originally put a Mohawk into my head, post on social media, hey, you know, I lost a really good friend of mine to suicide, but I just learned of it, and he had died 3 years prior, and I didn't even know, which was horrible to learn about. But so I posted on social media with a Mohawk, hashtag 22 Mohawks. I'll donate a larger, I'll donate money to a larger organization. And then people like Stacy started getting Mohawks and hashtagging 22 Mohawk. I think we got like 50 Mohawks
Wow.
the first 2 weeks. So it was pretty cool. A lot of our like local friends kind of joined in. And after that, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna create an event to bring the community together to kind of just educate people on suicide awareness and prevention. And it was a tandem parachute jump. So I was like, hey, I'm gonna put up the cash to have 10 people jump out of a plane tandem, right? Because anybody can do a tandem, right? It's you know, a day event. And then I'll take the families out to dinner to just have a conversation about suicide awareness, suicide prevention. And I did it by lottery. So I was like, hey, if you register by this date, I'll pull your name out of a hat and we'll get 10 veterans, right? So, you know, I think we literally had like 10 veterans sign up. So I pulled all the names out, made a whole to-do of it. And it was a great event. 10 vets came, their families came, we had dinner after it. And I am good friends with all these people who came to that event. Yep. We just gave one of the guys a pup, Gunny Shore. He was at the jump, the first jump. And yep. And then he came to Florida with us to jump. So it's doing exactly what I wanted it to do. That particular event was we just create these relationships, and everyone who's jumped is all friends. They're all friends on social media. I see them interact all the time. And because that was such a good event, I'm like, oh, I'll do this every single year, right? In September, I'll do the jump. I'll do it like Mohawk May to bring awareness and just kind of have like those two things. But the business brain in me was like, well, if I'm going to do that, I should probably have at least a landing page on the internet so people can go and register for the event. But I was like, you know what, if I'm going to spend, you know, $3 to $5 grand on a website, I might as well, you know, do some other services. So I was trying to think about what I really wanted to do with the organization. And I knew I wanted to have my annual tandem. And I also knew that my dog that I got had done great things for my mental health, right? Because everybody loves dogs for the most part. And I also knew that it takes the VA about 2 or 3 years to get a service dog, right? So right there, I'm like, well, not all vets need a service dog because I don't have a service dog, and my dog like has saved my life, you know. So I put on the website.
I'm in that same boat.
Right, right, yeah. You get a companion dog, you train them up, and it's just the greatest thing ever. But you know, put that on the website and said, hey, you know what, we get dogs for vets. Right. We'll get companion dogs for vets. Took about 3 months to build the website. And then we launched it in September of 2021. And literally within 2 days of launching, we got a call from a gentleman down the Cape, Mike McGee, former Marine, combat vet. And he was like, hey, listen, I need a dog. I'm in bad shape. Can you get me a dog? And I was like, you know what? I didn't even really have a business plan in play. I just kind of just threw it out there. But you know, in the back of my head, I knew that I could get a dog for a couple $100, like a rescue dog. Yeah. So I was like, yes, sir, I can get you a dog. So, you know, I got a rescue dog, drove down to a local rescue, paid for the rescue dog, drove it down Mike's house, dropped off the rescue dog. And that one act, me and Stacy dropped the dog off. That one thing literally changed the entire game for 22 Mohawks, because that was the right person to help out, because Mike ended up connecting us with, Charlie and Pat from Professional Canine Services, our original trainers. They were retired Marines, retired police, and they ended up doing dogs for us for months after that. Wow. And they basically reached out to Mike and was like, because Mike posted about getting the dog from us. He's like, hey, they were like, hey, we'll give you free training. And then we got on a Zoom with those guys, and then it just took off. And I think we just gave our 52nd dog.
I think it's going to be 55, I think, later this week.
Yeah, it'll be 55 this week. We've given 10 this month alone.
Wow. Well, I will tell you, those Doberman Ridgebacks that you've been giving away, they have been killing me. I love those pictures.
They're awesome, aren't they? Yes. Yeah.
So
Um,
that was actually one of my questions was what the whole dog part of it was about. So you
Yes.
actually,
So I mean, that program basically is our core service. But like it fills the mental health piece for, one veteran, right? And I know that like I need adrenaline rush. I seek it all the time. Like whether you're driving your car fast or like a lot of vets will drink or self-medicate.
yep,
And I know that for me, I need something high adrenaline. And after the tandem, it was like, well, that helps so many guys. So we ended up partnering up with Iman Kafel, who's an author. He's a local police officer, and he hooked us up with Dave Kraz of WNR Vets down in Florida, who connected us with X35 Airborne School. And now we created this 2 time a year annual static line parachute event. Static line, obviously, the Army standard for getting to combat, right? 1,250 feet. And we've developed a relationship with these guys. And now we fly 20 vets from across the country to Denellen, Florida, twice a year to do 6 days of parachute training and 5 jumps. And we've partnered up with America Warrior Partnership, the Vet Center, and they all come in. Our guys will jump, and then they'll have group and one-on-one mental health sessions. And I've done it too. I've jumped and then gone into the mental health section, and it was transformative. Just sitting there talking to a fellow veteran who's a certified mental health specialist and just unloading stuff after you have that massive adrenaline rush.
yeah,
And it just creates this deep like sense of belonging that we used to have when we were serving, So,
yeah,
and I mean, the studies behind it, you raise your adrenaline. It's not going to cure PTSD. It's not going to cure TBI, but it's going to give you that relief you need for the short term to it's almost like a cortisone shot,
yep.
It takes the pain away for a little while where you can kind of function and get your thoughts together and get your shit together. You know what I mean?
Yep, that's one of the things I try to tell people, and I don't know, every other week or so, I always post on there because I don't know how many non-veterans are on my page, and I always post, if you're dealing with a veteran in crisis, here's some kind of basic rules to follow. Don't think you have to be the psychologist. Sit with them, talk with them about the weather, things that's going on in the news, whatever. Just getting their mind off some things is the short term thing that you can do until that you can get them help.
And you're 100% right, Donald. I mean, that's literally what it is. Just kind of listen to them and just hear them out. It's like you think back to your time when you first got your firearm, your rifle, and you grow up in the ranks and you go to combat and you literally fight for your life with people who are more family than you're actually family members, right? And you literally fight for your life and you win. You go back, you sleep maybe, and then you go back out and you do it again willingly, knowing what the consequences could be. And there's nothing in the world after that can ever create that feeling again of actually fighting for your life. And I think that what happens is guys come back and they're like, wow, I'll never be as good as I was back then. And they just lose their sense of who they are and belonging. And I mean, it's tough to think about, but
the one thing I always get from civilians is when they talk to veterans, they always say, it seems like all you guys always say that you'd rather go back there than be here. And I tell them, I said, because it's easy. You get up, you do your job, you stay alive, you go to sleep, wash, rinse, repeat. You don't have any of the outside distractions that's going on, the bills, the drama, so and so's doing this, and you don't have any of that stuff.
no.
And so when you come back and you have the problems that you're bringing back with you, well, it makes real life that much harder.
That's right.
And now you can't, just for a real quick example, so I've now entered in the corporate world. And when I first got out of the military, I went straight into truck driving. I owned a trucking company and I worked for myself. And some things have changed with COVID and everything and my mom's health. So I ended up closing my business and moving down here to Missouri to help take care of her. But, I had my boss call and say, hey, your guys did this and they're supposed to do it this way. And I wasn't at work. And I said, okay, well, tell them if they didn't want to do it, they can do it tonight. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, just tell them they're not going home until it gets done.
Right.
And he's like, oh, no, you can't do that. I'm like, well, it worked in the Army. Trust me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Exactly.
you have to deal with the differences that's out here. And that's not the way we've been trained to deal
No.
with it.
Well, it's funny. Like, you come home, maybe twice a year, right? You get your 4 weeks a year. You come home, you see everybody, you get just enough of everybody where it's like, all right, I'm out. And then you
Yep.
go back and you put the uniform back on again. But then when you actually get out UETS and you can't go anywhere, you're like, oh shoot, I got my 2 week fix here. Like, I don't want to be around anybody anymore. Like
Yep.
I have nothing to say to you guys because you don't get it.
Yep.
And it sounds cliche, but it's the truth. It
It
is
is.
at any stretch, at any level. You can't really disappear like you used to. It's like a massive routine, especially people who served a good bit, a couple terms.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the units like you mentioned, so like 3rd ID, 10th Mountain, 82nd, 101st. I mean, when 9/11 was kicking, I mean, we were just on that train. You were either deployed or you were training to deploy.
Yep.
And I tell everybody, you literally the truth of the matter is you got 3 months every 2 years with your family, because the first 3 months when you come back from deployment, that's when they let you get with your family, and they try to keep everything relaxed and easy. But after that, you start training.
Yep.
Within the 6 month part, you're finding out you're getting orders. And by the time your year's up of dwell time, you're gone again for another year.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in the cycle. I mean, I did 68 months out of my 20 years in combat.
What did you do for 160th?
I was a mechanic. I was
Gotcha. Awesome.
I worked on the HEMTT fuelers and stuff like that.
Good for you.
So,
Good for you. Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah. And
if there's special operations like pilots.
Yep.
Yeah, it was the best 10 years of my life. I absolutely loved it. And when I got older and closer to retiring, they changed it from a volunteer unit to DA Select. So they started yanking the people that had been there for a long time, and they offered me a motor full position over in the Ranger with the 75th. And
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I'm like 36 years old. I don't think I want to go to Ranger school now. So I went.
Have to. Yeah.
Yeah, and I asked that question. I was like, "Do I have to go to Ranger school?" And they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "No, I think I'm just going to go back to the regular Army." So at that point, I decided it was time to retire. So I went back to the regular Army. I did a year in Qatar, and then I came back to Fort Stewart and retired.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and that was kind of the pull for us when we started this, was the lack of, there just was no camaraderie. So like you said, I got a dog when I was driving truck. It was probably the worst thing that I could have done as somebody. I didn't even realize I had PTSD, and I put myself in a truck driving 650 miles a day, 6 weeks at a time, just thinking. And things got worse and worse for me. And like you said, I got a dog and put the dog in the truck with me, and me and hers. I don't care if I'm going just down the street to get something to eat. She gets in the car with me and she goes with me.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I completely agree, and that is an awesome service to provide, because there's a lot of scammy companies out there that are trying to sell you fake licenses and stuff. So by them going through an organization like yourself, it's putting them with a trainer, and I'm a firm believer that the handler needs to be trained as much as the dog needs to be trained.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, even probably
more so than the than the dog itself.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know how to control it,
right,
control the dog, then you're in trouble.
Right.
Absolutely. So, do you guys have any other chapters, or are you guys pretty much just up in the north? Or
we have some people all around, and we're looking to expand. And we have Risdon in Ohio. Ohio. We have some people. We have some people in Virginia, North Carolina. We had a gentleman drive from Virginia all the way out here with some pups for us that he had bred.
Wow.
He was from Indiana. He drove,
and then he drove through.
He bred some dogs, drove to Virginia, dropped a dog for us, and then drove up and dropped 2 more dogs for us up here. Yeah, it was really
That's
cool.
awesome, man.
Aaron. Yep.
But the idea is to have the tandem jump that Dave started in every state eventually.
We want to do it in like 5 years on Labor Day weekend. We want to have every state do a tandem, 10 jumpers, for suicide awareness and prevention.
That would be
We
awesome.
can do it. I mean, it's not a huge budget to do. I think it's like $3,000 for 10 jumpers and dinner.
Yeah.
You know, I think anyone who's anybody can raise $3,000 and do that.
Yeah.
And I think it would raise a ton of awareness, you know.
Oh, absolutely. That something like that would be, it has to be newsworthy, you know, in my opinion, you know.
So we'll put you in charge of the Missouri chapter there then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll tell you what, I don't know. I'm big enough to be the tandem guy and the instructor. So
Perfect.
yeah,
Kill two birds with one stone there. Yeah.
since I retired, I'm hitting about 270 now. So I'm getting big.
Gotcha.
But absolutely, you know, and I'll definitely put everything, you know. So the other project I have, and this is what I tell everybody, I have a radio station. It goes officially live May 1st. But it's strictly for veteran musicians, comedians, podcasters, and it's just a platform for them to get their stuff out. So it's licensed through BMI,
Yep.
and I take all the nonprofit organizations that I interview, and I make up commercials for them, you know, and then I send it to them and make sure they're okay with it, and I put that on the radio station as advertisement space for them, you know, and it's been a long going project, but we're finally almost down to the final stretches. So
that's huge. Yeah, congratulations on that, Donald.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
I think if nothing else, it at least gets some of these artists paid. You know, I mean, they're going to collect, it's pennies on the dollar, but they'll collect royalties from everything that's playing. And I don't know if you've heard of, have you ever heard of Operation Encore?
Yeah, so that's actually funny that you say that, because we're actually doing a bike ride. So I don't even know if I spoke to you about this yet. Ken and Linda, I believe it is.
Yeah.
From where we're from, Norwood, there's a Norwood Rotary Club. They're putting together a motorcycle ride for us in September. And he actually just brought that up, Operation Encore. And we're actually going to utilize them to have somebody from there be one of the bands that plays.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So he kind of went through that whole, that's very funny that you mentioned that. So I otherwise wouldn't have known, but I just learned about it the other day.
So my big push with them is they've been trying to find a radio station that would dedicate, you know, volunteer an hour of airtime to play nothing but veteran musicians. And they can't find anybody that's willing to do it.
Wow.
So, you know, when I talked to him, and he kind of, Guy is the guy, I don't remember his last name, but Guy is the guy that kind of helped me navigate through the royalties, because I had the idea, my heart was in the right place. I just didn't know how to navigate it. And
Yeah, sure.
so he kind of helped me, and then Shannon Book, one of the musicians, helped me. So now that I'm licensed, they'll start getting royalties and everything else. So I'm going to go back to him and try to make that happen for him, to give him at least an hour, you know, 2 hours of nothing but airtime. Call it, you know, the encore hour or something. I don't care, you know.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
it's funny. It's weird that no station would be up for that. You would think that they would, you know.
Yeah, I've seen it, and it does happen, I guess. But some of these places, when they get big, they start seeing dollars versus missions, and you know, it's a fine line, and I was walking it. I ain't gonna lie, with this radio station, because I didn't want to create a business. I really didn't. I owned a business. I know the headaches that come along with it, and I really didn't want to go down that route. But I wanted to see this through, so I didn't really have a choice. But
yeah,
you know, when I first started, I thought, well, I'll just get an online radio station and we'll just start playing veterans music that will give them to me and let me play it. And then I learned, yeah, that's not so easy.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I bet it's not. I mean, I don't know, but I bet it's not.
It's easy if they haven't licensed with anybody, but if they're licensed with any of the copyright companies, well, you still owe them money for playing it, even if the musician don't want nothing.
We should get you connected with Chris Meyer from Vet Rep Theater. Have you heard of Havoc Journal?
I have not.
So Havoc Journal is a big, it's basically a veteran-owned writing company. So it's like poetry and writing and artists and stuff. But one of the guys that is part of that also runs what's called Vet Rep Theater.
Okay.
His name is Chris Myers, and he does like acting and theater, and he has a podcast called Vet Rep Theater, and he does like all artists. And we went to, he had a huge festival up in upstate New York, And he had a bunch of artists come and play and sing and stuff, all types of music too, like country, rock and roll, and they're all veteran operated, bands and stuff. But we could definitely connect you with him. I mean, you can at least have a conversation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to sit down. I don't say no to anybody, man. I'll sit down with anybody and talk. So yeah, I would love to, man. And that's the great thing about podcasting is it starts networking people and you start seeing different avenues. I put a lot of groups together to hopefully, collaborate and do something because we all got the same mission here. It's about taking care of veterans,
Yep. Yep.
and if anybody thinks that they're going to get so big, they're going to do it by themselves, they might want to look at the VA because the VA is big enough to do it by themselves, but it ain't getting done.
No, no. You're so right, and I think we all need to kind of do it all together. You know what I mean? But like you said, once certain people see money, they have this thing called mission drift.
Yep.
And it drifts right towards the dollars instead of what happened. And, it can happen to anybody. You just need someone that's going to pull you back in.
Yep. Yeah. And you look at Wounded Warriors. They kind of veered off and they made some personnel changes and it looks like they're doing better. But
yeah, no, I think so. I mean, they're a great organization. They help tons of veterans. You know what I mean? I think they just made a mistake on the spending side, but that's I think they learned from it.
Yep. So how long did you say that your organization's been around?
Yeah, so we started in April of 2021 is when we started.
Okay.
And then it really we became a 501c3 in September of 2021. And that's really when it really took a turn for massive growth. Really, it was like overnight we were just given dogs and being part of the community and be invited to, speak at places and because I mean we're in a bunch of different communities, right? So like I work in finance, my day job. So we also partnered with Northwestern Mutual to do finance classes. So we do investment in basic finance. So we're in that space. And then we do like a book club, which brings people all across the US. And it's cool. It's like a month-long thing. We read a book and talk about it. We also have we do the dogs, we do the jumps. So we're in the canine community where we have like trainers, we have like local people who just love animals that want to come and see animals. And then with the parachute community, we have jumpers all over the world. That just kind of, literally, that just kind of like join the group and we all work together, whether they're Swedish Rangers and they're part of 22 Mohawks, or they're just your regular 1/60th SOAR mechanic, right? It's just people from everywhere, right? It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's blessed to have like the synchronicity of the way things have unfolded for us, just the amount of people that are great people stepping up and just offering to help us out in any way, and just the people we've connected with has brought us to a really great place, like naturally. It's been really cool.
I think for the most part, this community that's exactly what you'll find. Before I got on, I was talking with a gentleman. He's trying to start his podcast, and I talked with him for a good hour and a half, just about my lessons learned and everything else. So I think that's exactly what this community does. So I also partnered with a couple other podcasters, right? And the story is so funny, I have to say it. I didn't realize, I mean, I did, but I didn't really take note of how many homeless veterans there really is. And moving from Georgia to Missouri, it's a little bit colder here. And I started thinking, I was like, man, these homeless veterans, it's like -10 out here. What are they doing? And so I decided this year I was going to do like a thing to try to raise as many jackets and wet weather gear and blankets, and was going to pass them out to homeless shelters to the veterans. And I was talking with another podcast, and he's like, well, we should all partner and do that. We can make it a little competition. He said, we'll call it the jacket off. And I started laughing. I said,
absolutely,
that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to buy a little trophy, and the three of us, 3 different podcasts, are going to have a little competition. And at the end of the day, hopefully a lot of people get warm, and a little chuckle out of what we call it. So I think that's what this community is about, man. Is making people laugh and everybody finding their little part. I kind of associate this community as like before the game when you see them unroll the flag and everybody's out there making the flag wave on the. That's kind of how I see this community. Everybody's got their little piece that they're doing to make it better, whether it's giving dogs or just talking to people and networking or
Yep.
whatever. That's what it's going to take to make it better. And
It is, yeah.
and I think what you guys are doing is absolutely amazing. The the dog part of it has always been an interest in me. And it's because I did the same thing that probably most veterans did. You know, Everybody says get a service dog, so you start Googling it, and then you find take your pet anywhere to any hotel, pay this, and we'll give you your license. And a lot of people, you can't find legitimate information out there. It's really tough. And if you find a legitimate agency that does provide service dogs, well, then you get upset because you find out it's like a 5-year wait.
Yeah, it's a long
to,
time
to get one.
It's
and
like a 3-year wait to get on the list, and then once you're on the list, it's like a 2-year wait to have that dog trained.
Yeah. And I think the sad part it is a lot of veterans mix up that whether they need a service dog versus just a companion.
That's right.
And for me, when I got my dog, I literally picked her out through the phone. My son, him and his fiance had an unexpected litter of 13 puppies, and she's a black mouth cur is what she is. And man, when he held her up, I said, "That's the one. That's the one I'm gonna take." And man, she rode with me for about 2 years in a truck, and we've been through some stuff together. So I mean, yeah, it builds that bond, man. And that's when I realized, well, I don't need a service dog. I don't, that I needed what I got. I needed a companion,
Yep.
So I think that is awesome, man, because so many more veterans are going to find help at a much quicker rate, and plus the obedience training that they're getting and the how to handle dogs and all that stuff that they're getting with it. I think that's a very valuable resource, man. I think that's one of the better resources out there.
Yeah. I mean, it builds community too, like with our training and stuff. It just keeps everybody, 50 meters, right? Everybody comes in on the weekend and does their training, and it's like accountability. It's like it's leadership one-on-one. It's like, hey, hold everybody accountable, and that's what we need. That's what we want, right? To be held accountable and be around the people that are just like us.
Now, have you guys do any work with like the humane centers and stuff like that?
We haven't at this time, no.
No, we do a lot. Like most of our work is with like local rescues, because there's a couple of rescues that get a lot of dogs, and they're calling us every day like, oh, we got another 10 dogs in, and we try to either foster them or rehome them. And then, like you said, like some people have litters unexpectedly, like some Rhodesians, and they say, hey, we want to donate these to a good cause. So that just happens all the time. And I think what's actually really moved the needle for us is that over the past about year and a half, we didn't have a location. We were working out of my living room. And so we relied on other people to get dogs for us. And it just wasn't happening quick enough. So like a veteran would call and ask for a dog, and we wouldn't be able to turn it as quickly as I use that language, turn it like it's a product, but it's, you get what I'm saying.
Right.
We couldn't get the dog out the door. We couldn't get the dog quick enough to get it to the veteran. And then the veteran would kind of just fall off, right? Like we couldn't get in touch with them again. So one of our value adds is that we can get a dog within 2 weeks for a vet. But we just got a building 2 months ago, and it's proven to be probably one of the better decisions we made, because now we have dogs on hand at all times, no matter what. So when somebody calls, unless they have a specific dog that they want, we can pretty much turn that, or we can pair that dog within 2 weeks, which is really, really important for somebody who's looking for a dog that needs it,
And I think that's kind of what I was asking about with the humane societies. If the dog rescues, the foster places, because there's so many broken dogs out there that you put with a veteran that's broken, and between the two of them, they start healing together. I mean, to me, I just think that's amazing.
My
And
my
COVID didn't
buddy
help that.
Mike McGee said it perfectly. He said that because he was in bad shape, and he was like, I put myself in the back of the kennel with the dog at a kill shelter. Like I'm just waiting my turn to go. And then when you go and you see that dog and you save that dog, you're saving the dog from the kennel, and then that dog is saving the vet. So we're saving a dog to save a vet.
That is awesome, man. And I think that is one of the best programs, So I hope you guys get a chapter in every state.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've been lucky. We've done dogs in other states. We've been blessed to have. We have so many connections around too that, when it comes down to it, if somebody calls us from another state, we'll work with we'll find a local rescue and we'll work with them, and then we'll find a reputable trainer. We'll call around and kind of like, I guess, interview different training places just to see what's near the veteran or whatever. And it doesn't, here we have it great because we have such a sense of community when the guys come in for the training, like Dave said. And, but even if somebody's in another state, we'll definitely work to get them a dog as soon as we can too.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And so whenever something happens to my mom and I move back to Georgia, well, I may be interested in helping you start a chapter if you don't have anybody in Georgia by then. So
absolutely. You'll be our first mate, Don, in Georgia.
That's awesome. I got 3 acres out there, so I got enough room for to house some dogs. So
I love Georgia. I miss it. I spent some time in Georgia. Yeah, I love it down there.
Just wish they had a winter. Yeah.
Go to Dahlonega.
I always told my wife, I said, I'm gonna find someplace colder and I'll just visit you in the wintertime in Georgia. So and she's a Jeep girl, so she loves the Georgia weather.
Gotcha.
See, I like the cold. I like the cold.
Yeah.
I do too. I love hunting season. I mean, as you can tell, that's my
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, like, don't you think that's overkill with all those bottles in Knob Creek?
No. So let me show you the next goal here.
Hence the name of the podcast.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So we're going to brand our own bourbon.
Oh, that's great.
So
I want to buy one of those. When you get those out, can I buy one of those?
Yeah, well, I'll give you one. I'm not going to sell them to anybody. I'll give them to you. But yeah.
Fantastic.
I'll get you.
All right. Even better.
Yep. So a buddy of mine's providing the liquid, and I bought the barrel, and so we'll have about 1.5 gallons here in a couple of years.
That's great. That's fantastic.
But I thought that would be kind of a fun, I'm going to buy some little decanters that it's got our logo on it, and I'm going to pass them out for gifts and stuff.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah. You're a busy guy, man. I like that.
Yeah, all my kids are grown, and this is pretty much what I do, So and it makes it kind of easier right now because, like I said, my wife and grandkids and kids are all in Georgia, and I'm here with my mom in Missouri. So
how many kids you have?
2.
Nice.
I had a boy and a girl, and
nice.
And they've already like quadrupled that into grandkids. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, and we're big in, so like my son and my daughter both have world titles in martial arts, and that's what my wife does. She runs the after school program for the karate school. So
okay.
Yeah, I mean, my granddaughters have been in karate before they were out of diapers. That's when they started. That's how little, So, and it's just been a family thing since my kids started when they were like 6 and 7. So
yeah, that's epic. I like that.
Yeah, it builds a sense of community around that as well. So it's good stuff.
It really does. Yeah. Yep. Jiu-jitsu is kind of a big deal right now too, with like PTSD and all that stuff. It's been like proven to really, really help. Yeah,
and that's what I tell people. I think anything that's got instructional. So like when I started this, I discovered there's a whole bunch of like outdoor veteran organizations that take you hunting and stuff like that, right? And I think the ones that take you out there and say, this is how you hunt, this is what you're looking for, this is what we do, and they turn it into an instructional day. Mm-hmm. And they're not just saying, okay, I got a deer stand out there, you can go sit out there and hunt because you're a veteran. And you sit in a deer stand for 8 hours looking at the woods and thinking, if you're that other side where you're putting instructionals to where they have to take instructions, follow it, and actually put it into work, I think it helps, and I think that's the big part of anything that you do. Even jumping, there's a lot of instructions and safety and stuff
Yeah.
that goes in with it.
You have to be
So
fully dialed in,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. So I think that's a big part of how the military guys think is we need that structure. These are the steps that you take, and this is what you do. And that
Absolutely.
helps takes your mind off of the problems because now you're focused on the objective. So I think that's really important. So how does what's the steps for somebody if they want to do one of your services? Do they go through your website or Facebook or
Yeah, so we have on our Facebook pages, we have a lot of the events listed on Facebook. We, obviously all of our pictures and everything are posted on Instagram. But on Facebook, we have our events listed there. And also on our website, if you go under events, we have all of our fundraising events. And then, as Dave mentioned, like the financial education classes and stuff like that, you can register for everything on there. And then there's a separate link for our Pups for Vets. And then the application to get started is on there as well. So it's a pretty easy process. For the dogs, you fill out the form, send us a copy of your DD 214, and then Dave and I will jump on a call. We'll do like an intro call. We'll kind of see where they're at, what they're looking for, how soon they want the dog, where they're located, all that information. We'll start looking for the dog in that area. We do a Zoom call just to check out, the house type of thing, all that. Make sure everything's okay. Sometimes if somebody needs like a help with more finances or whatever, we'll have them, get a co-signer or a family member, depending on where they're at, right, in life,
right?
because we obviously want to make sure always that the veteran's good and that the dogs are good as well. So we have just that whole
Right.
process. And then from there, like Dave said, it takes about 2 weeks. Depending on, some people might be a little pickier. We do our best to try to accommodate people. But so it depends on exactly what the person's needs are, because we can only, do with what we have, but
Right.
it's typically like a 2-week turnaround. And then, some of these guys need dogs right away, and we've been blessed to be able to provide them instantaneously almost, and put these guys in a better place. And it happens. And the messages we get and the conversations we have with, people that are part of this program is just invaluable.
Yeah. So are the dogs normally spaded and neutered before they go to the veterans or?
It depends. So like the litter we just got, obviously they're younger. Most rescues will spay them right off the bat because that's the whole point, is they don't want to have dogs reproducing, so that they'll do that. Like these pups we got and the gentleman we got them from was, requesting we waited a little bit longer just to let the dog go through the hormonal cycles, or where it is. So depends on where we get the dogs from. Like Dave said, we predominantly get them from rescues, but then when we do get them from breeders, they may not be. But typically when they come from the rescue, they are.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, because I mean, no, I don't like to think that there's bad people out there, but we all know there is. So,
Yeah.
You get somebody that says, "Well, I want a English bulldog that is this color," and instantly I start thinking, yeah, are you just trying to breed and make money? And
Right.
so that's why I was kind of curious if that was one of the
That's, I
things.
actually never thought of that, but we have a pretty with even all, we've done over 50 something, like Dave said, dogs, and we're in contact with these people. And our organization is pretty small. We have some great volunteers. We have a woman named Tara who helps us out. Kylie. We have a bunch of people that are great, but predominantly it's a smaller crew. But we're constantly reaching out to these people. We have texts going crazy all the time. We're staying in contact with them. Part of our application, it says on there in the liability form, it's like you can't rehome the dog, you can't, I'm going to put that in there, use the dog for breeding purposes, right? Things like that. We have that all in there. And then the dog technically is still owned by us until it's signed off on by a master trainer, so that we can make sure that the dog isn't having any issues, isn't abused, is being taken care of. We do, for people that aren't near us, we'll do Zoom calls to check in, which is a little different, but still we're in such good contact, and we're able to do that right now. As we grow, will it stay that way? Hopefully. But I think we've been really lucky that we haven't had any issues at all like that.
That is awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be a fan, and I will send as many people to you guys as I can, because I I had a 2-hour conversation with a gentleman yesterday that wrote a book about PTS, about service dogs, and the more I talked to him, I became more and more convinced that, I think there's really just a bad interpretation. I think companion dogs probably are the more common of what people with PTSD really need. And I'm sure the service dog part is good for them too, but the amount of veterans when you start doing, I mean, when you go do a Google search and you start finding a bunch of businesses about something, that tells you there was a demand at some point for that.
That's right.
And we start seeing all these, service dog and stuff, man. I get nervous about it because I'm a dog fan myself, and
I believe there's only 68 service dog companies in the United States that are actually certified by I don't know if it's like the ACA or the VA or something, but there's only 68 in the country that you can actually get a true service dog, because there's no real standards in the US, right? Like I could slap a service dog vest on my dog and be like, here he is, here's my dude, and then it'll like bark and pee all over the place, right?
Yep.
And that kind of
see it all the time.
else. Yeah. But like people will create their own standards, which they can. It's not against the law, but pretty quickly if that dog's a service dog. If you go on the subway here in Boston, a real service dog will get on that train, sit down, and not make a peep, not poo, not even look at you. Where when people have those quasi service dogs, they're jumping on you, and they have a vest on that's like
I just seen that like 3 days ago at Walmart. An older gentleman had a service dog vest on his dog, and it wasn't a big dog, but it was yanking on the chain and trying to jump on other people and barking. And I'm like, and that's kind of where the stigma comes from.
I know. It's one thing if it's like, hey, a service dog in training, and you're like aware of it, and you say, hey, he's in training, he's out of his mind, and then you fix it, right? But it's one thing to call your dog a service dog. I took Winston I flew him to Denellen with us. I took him with us, and they were like, is that a service dog? And I was like, if I say yes, I can do whatever I want with this dog. You know what I mean? But I'm like, no, he's not a service dog. They're like, he needs to be right under the seat the entire time. And I was like, my poor dog. You know what I mean? And I think that's why people do it, is because they want to take they're tough on both ends too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And especially like at hotels, some of these hotels have got like 50, 100, I've seen all the way up to $200 non-refundable deposits for your dog staying at a hotel.
That's right.
So, and if it's a service dog, it's free. So
that's right.
I do see where it comes from,
I know.
And
we, and it gives we work with an organization up here that's in Mass called Clear Path for Veterans, and they do service dogs there. They've been a great partnership with us. They actually they put a lot of work into their service dog program, and the veteran has to be able to come there, and build the bond with the dog. And there's no guarantee at the end of that the dog is going to pass the service dog training. Yes, because we've been blessed that they'll their dogs that don't pass, some of them they'll donate to us to be able to give to a veteran. So it won't be a service dog, right? But now there's a dog that has had all this extensive training, but for whatever reason, maybe it barks at every 50th person. Maybe one
jumps
up
on you.
Daisy, she just would get on her back. She just wants you to rub her belly. Like she just loves people. She can't help herself.
You can't do it as a service dog,
Amazing dog, beautiful golden retriever, like amazing dog. And so we're lucky that they'll do that, but they put so much work into that dog, and they're taking the right steps to it. So then you have this other dog that somebody's like, my service dog, that's like biting somebody. You're like, oh my God.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on, and I will make sure that I pass links and everything. And you don't have to, I already share all your guys' stuff. So
we love it.
Yep. So I will definitely, and I'll stay in touch and make sure if I get to back to Georgia here fairly soon, we'll talk about, because I'd love to help out.
Yeah, Donald, shoot me your address too and sizes, and we'll get you some cool gear.
Hey, that's awesome. I will do. We'll do.
Yeah.
Hey, I appreciate it, and I will get you guys all the links. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. And we wish you the best of luck on, what you say, May 1, the radio station's kicking off?
Yep. Awesome. Gun Room Radio, that's what it's called.
Happy for you, man. That's great.
You'll have
great
to send
news.
us the links and stuff for that. We'll put it out there as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll do. All right. You guys take care.
Thanks,
You as
Donald.
well.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Good night.